Hello and welcome to the show. Well, listen, we're on the set today, and I tell you what, I am so excited because we have a great show. This is our guest for today, Mr. Randy Heath. But before we introduce him and talk about this wonderful world of being a librarian and a Black librarian at that, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
The Orangeburg County Conference Center supports downtown Orangeburg and our surrounding communities. The 6,000 plus square foot space is ideal for groups of up to 400 people attending corporate meetings, conventions, workshops, and special events. Conference Center staff are inspired to ensure that everyone can enjoy the modern amenities. State-of-the-art ballroom that accommodates up to 400 guests banquet style and 430 guests theater style. A warming kitchen with hot boxes, ice machine, refrigerator, freezer, and counter space. A lobby that accommodates 150 guests with special events outdoors. The comfortable outdoor amphitheater has a video wall and seating. Adjacent to the amphitheater is 12,000 plus square feet of green space that extends events outside, plus complimentary on-site event parking and additional parking across the street. Your event can take place all in one spectacular location. We welcome your special event in Orangeburg.
Join us at the Ultimate Bridal Experience Sunday, July 23rd, 2023 at the Orangeburg County Conference Center from 1 to 4 p.m. Become an exhibitor or get your tickets. A large gathering of a variety of local and regional wedding vendors, wedding professionals, fashion show, prizes, and more. Join us for the Ultimate Bridal Experience Sunday, July 23rd, 2023.
Hello, everybody. It's Finkley of The Michael Finkley Show, and you're watching Gold right now. Why? You're watching The Tammy Show. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. Well, I tell you, we have got a great show planned for you. When I tell you this special guest that I'm sitting next to is someone who has become a friend and is very knowledgeable. I mean, this brother knows it all. So let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a devoted husband. He's the son of amazing parents. He's the father of 4, graduate of USC with his master's of library and information science, as well as his bachelor's degree. He's also has a specialization certificate in diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Now, he's also the American Library Association. This is the American Library Association. He's a Spectrum Scholar. And not only that, he's also a University of South Carolina, Augusta Baker Scholar, and he's going to tell us about Augusta Baker. Recently, he's a recipient of the South Carolina Library Association Scholarship for Diversity in Librarianship. Did I say that right?
You got it right.
He's a trained facilitator, an advisor. He's a trainer and a local and national speaker. And guess what? Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Randy, middle name, Dentrell Heath. I can't leave out the Dentrell. Anyway, that's right. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Tammy, I'm so delighted to be here. I'm on the Tammy show. Hey, mama. I'm on the Tammy show.
Hey, mother. How are you all doing? And children, everybody, and wife, your beautiful wife. It's so great to have you on the show. You know, when you and I sat down and Randy and I talked about one of the things, because this is Black History Month, I wanted to talk about being a Black librarian, because when I was growing up, I only saw a couple of Black librarians. One, because I'm from Charleston, there was the main one in the main library. She was over the Miss, if you watch it, don't kill me, because I can say it off the top of my head. But anyway, she was the main librarian. And then in my high school, Mrs. Haywood, of course, I can't forget Miss Haywood because she got me out of a lot of trouble. And she was our main librarian in high school, but that was all that we saw. And so I wanted Randy to come on today, and we wanted to kind of share some history about being a Black librarian and what that means for today and moving forward. So Randy, first, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my story is kind of similar in that regard. I actually didn't grow up around a lot of Black librarians. In fact, I didn't meet my first Black male librarian until I was an adult.
Really?
A grown man.
Wow.
And so I wish I could sit here and tell you, Tammy, that all my life I knew I wanted to be a librarian. That was my main focus. It was not. In fact, I wish I could say that all of my experiences growing up visiting the library was great, but it wasn't.
Right.
So it was many instances where I felt as a Black man and as a Black child and some of my friends and cousins going into the library that it didn't always feel like a welcoming place to us. Yeah. And so that led to never really considered this to be a career. Right. And so when it relates to that, I actually started off my career in workforce development and then worked for colleges and for federal agencies. And then I actually found a job at a library system and that job was in workforce development. And so there I began to just fall in love with the library aspect of the work. And so I began to learn everything in-house that I could. And at the time I was with Richland Library. And then before you knew it, I worked my way up to actually being a branch manager of a library system. Wow. Before I even had my library degree. Really? Which is unusual to do as well. I was the first one in that system to do that as well. And so I became a librarian, if you will, without getting my credential.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's a journey, unfortunately, that many people oftentimes tell me. In fact, there's grown people now that tell me I'm the first Black male librarian that they've ever met.
And and you are one of the first Black librarians that I have met. I mean, I remember being at Howard, we had female librarians. We may have had one male librarian at the time. And the word is librarian. We talked about that as well, how people say library, the library.
Hey, I don't mind.
The library.
Oh, library, that's fine with me.
As long as you come to the library. That's the main thing. So let's talk about history. When we talk about Black librarians, who is the first recorded librarian in the United States?
Yes. So I knew I was coming on the Tammy show, so I knew I better come correct. So I did a little research for you, Tammy, because I didn't know the answer off the top of my head, but I did a little research and found out that Edward Christopher Williams became the first noted credential trained Black male librarian in the United States. And so with him, he actually started off at Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, and he worked himself up to being a librarian at a university. And then later he actually became one of the first Black men to join the American Library Association as well.
Wow.
So that's a little research that I didn't know before the show, but I knew I was coming on the Tammy show.
And that's from the 1800s. 1800s, when they didn't even want us to read.
1800s.
And we weren't supposed to be reading then.
Or going into the library.
Or going into the library.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Or going to school for that matter. We had our own schools. Blacks had their own schools. African Americans, we had our own schools. And so, yeah. So, you said a very important word just now, credentialed. Credentialed and trained librarian. What does that mean today in today's terms?
Yes. So typically when you refer to a credentialed librarian, that usually means that you have to have your master's in library and information science, or a degree to be a school librarian, which is a different degree. So when you refer to a credentialed librarian, that's usually what you refer to. Now, unfortunately, only less than 1% of librarians are Black credentialed male librarians. So we represent less than 1% of credentialed trained librarians.
Wow. And so having said that is 1%, and this is for males, what about the female population? Remember I told you, I saw 2 females in high school as well as college, that were librarians, Black librarians.
Yes.
So where does that stand in statistics today?
Yeah, so unfortunately the statistics are not leaning very favorably to people of color in librarianship. And so when I say that, looking back at my notes, in fact, 89% of the library field are white. And then only 5% of those only 5% of library workers are African American. And so if you look at less than 1% of them being Black men, then that will leave the other 4% of women. Yes. And then so librarianship is across the nation considered a predominantly white industry. And so those are some of the challenges that we are working on. Not only myself, but so many others are working to kind of change that, because libraries are for everyone. But if the workers and the librarians, if they don't look like everyone, and they, then that creates all kinds of issues. Right,
and that was one of my questions about how does that affect our children? And I'm saying children in general, because you have Black and brown, Hispanic, Indian, Native American, Asian. I mean, how does that affect the libraries that children visit?
It's a big issue. It's a big issue because what you end up seeing are services that just don't relate to people of color. And so what you also see is lack of representation in the programming, lack of representation in the services being delivered, lack of representation in the leadership of libraries. And so those are people who are making very important decisions about the vision of the library, but they're predominantly white. And so that means that in many cases, you get told that many Black and brown people just don't feel like the library is for them.
Wow. And in your bio, you are also a race, I want to say a race historian,
champion,
and so for you, when you are looking at what you're doing, because now you are the deputy director of the Orangeburg County Library System in South Carolina, where does that fit in? What are some of the challenges that you are having to deal with, or that you are seeing that, hey, this can be done easily, and you're doing it? What are those things that are coming up? What are those challenges?
So the beauty of the work that I get to do is I get to be a Black man all the time. I mentioned that with your question because I'm unwilling to assimilate. I'm unwilling to change who I am, which is why when we even when we introduce my name, Randy Dantrell Heath,
Right.
there's stats that if you have a black sounding name, then unfortunately that yields itself to not getting the same employment opportunities. So I mentioned that because when people look at me and see me as a black face at an administrative level, that's something that many people don't see. The kids, the parents, the community members, they come up to me and was like, I'm proud of you, brother. But I also wear that with pride because I stand on the shoulders of so many people before me, people who've made sacrifices and people who were not able, who were completely qualified, but weren't able to get into the administrative positions or into even official librarian roles, even though they were qualified.
Wow.
And so knowing all of that, I am very intentional about making sure that I keep that dialogue happening, that I keep those conversations happening. And so some of my initiatives that I help lead are focused on that. And I also am very intentional at helping other generations to know, how can I get into librarianship? Because sometimes we think that it's only about reading. We are absolutely about reading. We're absolutely about books. But there are so many other forms of literacy. There's so many other aspects of librarianship, and which means there's also so many other gifts and talents that can be fully utilized. And so part of my work is to also make sure that as we're serving entire communities, that we reflect demographically those communities, and we have the skill set and the knowledge to make sure that we can meet the needs and the desires and the wants of the community.
Right.
And so that's a huge aspect of it.
That is. Well, Randy, listen, we're going to take a commercial break and we're going to come right back. Listen, you're listening to the Tammy Show. You're watching us. I'm with Randy Dantrell Heath, Deputy Director of the Orangeburg County Library System. We'll be right back.
The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com. Join us at the Ultimate Bridal Experience Sunday, July 23rd, 2023 at the Orangeburg County Conference Center from 1 to 4 p.m. Become an exhibitor or get your tickets. A large gathering of a variety of local and regional wedding vendors, wedding professionals, fashion show, prizes, and more. Join us for the Ultimate Bridal Experience Sunday, July 23rd, 2023.
Welcome back. You know, we are having a conversation in backstage, as they say. We went backstage for a minute, but coming back to the show, if you're just joining us, I'm talking with Randy Dantrell Heath. He's the Deputy Director of the Orangeburg County Library System. Randy is well versed in librarianship or librarian science. Because he knows it all. And I wanted him to come on and really talk about this for Black History Month. Let's get back to what you said. It was something that you said earlier about helping other generations learn about librarians, about librarian science, librarianship. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I tell people all the time that I'm so forever grateful and fortunate because I have a tremendous support system of mentors. So I have Black men and women of color who pour into me as mentors, as advisors, and I'll reference some of their names in just a moment. But I mention that because they have been instrumental in helping me to grow in this profession, to grow in my knowledge and expertise. But they also poured into me, and those are some of the things that I also do with people who are considering librarianship, or want to know more about it, or they may even be like myself, was in a different field, but then found maybe I should consider librarianship.
Right.
And so having those conversations and spending those times, but also connecting them with, I couldn't be a good librarian if I did not connect people with resources that are out there. And so you referenced earlier in my intro that You know, I'm a Spectrum Scholar and a Augusta Baker Scholar.
Right.
So for instance, this ALA Spectrum Scholar, that's one of the initiatives that have focused on making sure that Black and brown people have access to financial scholarship opportunities and leadership opportunities, because we lack Black and brown people in leadership. And so telling people about how to pursue those opportunities and how those are tremendously, important to growth and development and exposure. Or the Augusta Baker Scholar that I also mentioned that I am a recipient of. And Augusta Baker is named after Augusta Baker, who was a nationally known librarian and storyteller and just a tremendous person who actually focused on children's librarianship and lived in New York before moving to South Carolina. And so that's the Augusta Baker Scholar is named after that. And so with being awarded the Augusta Baker Scholar, I got to work alongside now one of my good friends and advisor and mentor, Dr. Nicole Cook, who is the endowed Augusta Baker Chair at the University of South Carolina. Wow. And so I'll provide the resource so people can go check out their website, but she actually sponsors critical conversations that are available online that people can participate for free, that actually engages people in discussions that engages on things like we're talking about right now, the history, the challenges of being a librarian of color, and how can we work together to overcome those.
Wow, and Augusta Baker was Black.
She was Black.
So we want to make sure you understand that. Randy, we're talking about disparities within the library systems. What are some of the ways that we can help our young children today realize and become and know that they can become a part of a library system? That they're welcome. What are some of the things that are being done?
Well, one of the things is let them see a Black, a brown librarian, because I didn't see that, and I know that one of my youngest sons, growing up a couple years ago, he said, "Dad, I want to be a football player, a basketball player." I can't remember what was on this, a police officer, and a librarian.
Oh.
And a librarian. He was able to say that because he saw me, his father, being a librarian. And so when you say that, I really highly encourage people to bring their kids to the library, let them see people like me, and those that goes a long way. But also let them get involved. We allow for, like at the Orangeburg County Library System, we accept teen volunteers. We have all kinds of programming that engages the entire family, and we're always looking for ideas. And I can say that one of the big things when you look at barriers, oftentimes there are Black and brown people who actually get library degrees, like I get, who actually end up leaving the field altogether because they actually get blackballed or aren't able to move up higher. And so I even have to give a shout out to my executive director, who actually hired a Black male deputy director, which is very uncommon. They oftentimes don't hire people who look like me at an administrative level. And so even challenging folks to do that, but also get involved with library boards. That is very helpful. And I can tell you, people who are in Orangeburg, we would encourage people to get involved with our Friends of the Library, who focus on promoting, helping us get funds and promoting the library as a whole. And that goes a long way for us being able to make a greater reach and make a difference.
Right. And you talked about other types of positions in literacy. not just putting books up and, reference and those type of things. What are some of those other things? Because I know folks are wondering, because we come to the library, we're going to read. It used to be card catalog. Everybody, now I'm telling them on myself, tell my age. Because he don't know that, he doesn't know nothing about the library.
We don't use it.
Right, the Dewey system. So talk about other literacy positions that are available.
And before I can go there, you mentioned Dewey system. Something that people don't know is the Dewey system. We oftentimes don't use that wording anymore because of his racist past. And so I'm not going to go into much detail, but encourage people to look at. But I know that even some awards that national awards have been taken, renamed because of that. And so when you look at the different fields and the different areas of focus in librarianship, I can tell you that when I hired people, no one has ever been trained or had a degree in checking out books. As a librarian myself, that's not one of the things that we even go to school for. And so we look for other skill sets and how can we maximize those skill sets. And so when you look at other forms of literacy, so there's financial literacy, there's health literacy, there's all these other things that are equally as important to communities that we also have to find ways to meet those needs and get that out there. But there's also entertainment. There's also providing resources that people don't know. And so we get to have fun at the library, y'all. So it's no longer places where we're telling people, shh.
Because it's not loud.
No, it's exactly. In fact, I'm working on right now, Tammy, of trying to get an open mic night at the library. Right. So we're really gonna be up in there loud and making sound. So long are the days where the library system is just for quiet readers in the library. We still have room for that. Right. And those people are welcome. But we also have welcoming spaces that include art and all these other things that bingo. Oh, yeah. Come on, check out the bingo night. We had like 85 people yesterday for bingo night.
And you get books and prizes and all types of things.
Absolutely. So video games, I've even played video games with the kids, and I talk junk when I beat them. I tell them you got beat by Mr. Library Man. And so when you look at that, those are some of the things that really show a different view of what librarianship is. And I can tell you that some of the relationships I've built over my career, from playing video games with kids to at that point, next thing we know, we're talking about books. We're talking about other movies and school and what they want to do for their career. But that's a relational aspect. So you get, as a librarian, you get to work with the entire community, with the entire person, and meet the entire needs of the community and have fun doing it.
Yeah, and I'm telling you what, Randy is a lot of fun. He has a lot of fun with these young people. He really and he told me a story, and I wasn't there then, but he told me a story about working with young people and how this group of young men came in and they had their hoods on and everybody was looking at them differently, but you took the time to really engage them, and so now they come to the library.
Exactly.
They look for you.
They look for me. Where my guy at? That's what it referred to me as. But yeah, they came into the library and went into one of the rooms that they weren't supposed to be in. I went in and said, "Hey, what you doing in here?" And they were like, "Well, this is our first time in here." And I was like, "Okay. Well, since it's your first time, how about I give you a full tour of the whole library?" Right. And I was like, "Okay." I dapped them all up, gave them a full tour, and they were like, "Oh, Miss Randy, thank you so much for the tour." Then before I knew it, they come to movie nights and we're talking, asking me for snacks, and and we're having a good time, and they went and got friends. And so that's very important to me that everyone feels like they're welcome. And that's very important to the Orangeburg County Library System. And that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So, Randy, we don't have a lot of time, but what's next? What's next for you? What's next for your career? What's next for what's happening at Orangeburg County Library System?
Yeah, that's a really really big question because we got a lot coming up. I just referenced we're trying to get open mic night started, focusing on getting more Black art and in the library system. I'm looking to get more involvement and from community members, asking more people to participate in our Friends of the Library, which is tremendous for making our library continue to grow. And for myself, I'm also working on part of the work that I also do is facilitate conversations around all issues of race, no matter what the issues are, including librarianship and mainstream society and locally. And so we're looking to bring those to Orangeburg County Library System as well, along with hearing from the community. And so I'm telling people all the time, invite me out to your event, whatever you feel like I need to be. Let me know. I'm very easily reachable. And I encourage, I'll sit down and have a full conversation with you.
That's right. That's right. And so, Randy, the last question I want to ask you is 3 words that describe you. And can we show Randy's information while he's talking about the 3 words that describe him?
These are always difficult to answer because I describe myself in so many different ways, but I would say kind. I'm kind. I would say I'm funny. And I'm authentic. I'm authentic. Yeah. Randy is Randy, no matter who I'm in front of, and that's liberating.
Yeah, Randy Dantrell Heath, everyone. Listen, Randy, thank you so much for being on the show, my brother.
I'm on the Tammy show. I
just appreciate you so much. Listen, for you taking the time out of his busy schedule, because not only that, he coaches and all of that. We didn't even talk about all of that, but he coaches and they really lean on you over at the library there, and you're doing a great job. So thank you, and thank you to your executive director as well, for having the vision to have you come to Orangeburg.
I appreciate that. And so I have to just formally shout out to Team Orangeburg County Library as well. Teamwork makes the dream work, and we have a tremendous team. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you. Well, listen, folks, you heard it right here. This was Randy Dantrell Heath, Deputy Director of the Orangeburg County Library System, and he's on the show today. And so we're going to kind of close out the show. Willie's here with us today, and Felicia, Tiana, and of course, I want to thank all of viewers for always tuning in to Tammy. Next week, you're going to hear from Chief Food Day Mansa Ajamu, and also Roderick Gass. They're here with the Gullah Geechee Nation. And so we're going to talk about Gullah Geechee. We're going to talk about Africa because Chief Fude is coming to us from Sierra Leone. And so we are going to have him on, and I am excited about that show as well. So I want you to tune in next week to hear Chief Fude as well as Fode, as well as Roderick Gass. Until the next time, remember, thank you, producers. I love you all so much. Willie, Felicia, Tiana, thank you all for all the great work that you do. I want to thank Randy again for being on the show with me and spending the time to be here. And hello to his family and all his friends and everybody, But listen, as I always say, don't forget, you can watch the Tammy Show, and it is the Tammy TV Show on YouTube. Remember, hit that subscribe button. I always tease and say I'm not like Willie because he can tell you hit the subscribe button and do so-and-so, so-and-so. But I'm going to tell you to hit that red button. That's the subscribe button. And until the next time, I'll see you again. But remember, always check on somebody and be a blessing to somebody today. Until then, take care of yourself. Randy, we're going to say bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.